Mm.
No! Choose your adventure.
Did I just get Isekai'd?
Option 1. You must defeat the Demon King.
No.
Option 2.
Power comes at a cost. But growth is never.
Option 3.
How would you like some potatoes?
I yearn for the fields. Isekai is an extremely popular genre at the moment. It's been kind of ramping up the last few years, and I wish I could say with this unprecedented amount of volume that we are getting shoved down our throats with it, that the quality has increased with the sheer amount of it. But sadly, that is not the case.
What am I doing? I could be doing anything, but no! Oh my God, no!
The whole originality of getting transported into a new world and becoming overwhelmingly powerful, that's kind of stayed past its due in my mind. And there are still very good ones out there. I think a lot of the times it comes to just writing quality, but I see this a lot on web novels and anime and other media that it's kind of like romance. Like the people who read it read a lot of it, so quality gets shucked by the wayside.
Don't ask questions, just consume product.
I think that we need a change. Sometimes the slop needs a little bit of salt and seasoning to keep it fresh. We need outlandish applications of magical power mixed with a bit of slice of life and the slower pace of tilling the fields.
It ain't much, but it's honest work.
I have seen a big rise of just like Isekai slice of life or fantasy slice of life, where you get transported or already in some kind of fantasy world, and rather than going off to slay dragons or become a king or something absolutely crazy like that, instead it's just like you take a breather, you open a coffee shop, and then you're just kind of sigh in relief because you're not on a place with social media anymore. Goblins, orcs, incoming demon horde, better than X.
I am become meme.
Of all the timelines, this is clearly the darkest.
Yeah, pretty much.
And I think with the world being as like chaotic and just ever escalating and anxiety inducing as it is, you're seeing a lot more like wants of something simpler like slice of life, which is why I think that the books I'm going to recommend hit as hard as they do. There's still progression, there are still stakes, but the progression cycle isn't just like, hey, I'm going to grind, train, become so OP that I eventually kill God. It's about becoming so overpowered that you wake up every day with a stable income. Book 1, Beware of Chicken. This is a pretty fun book that I've read. I have some issues with it later on in the series, with it being a little too relaxing and not having enough things happen. But the first 4 books or so I thought were extremely enjoyable. The general premise of this book, if you haven't read it, is that a guy gets isekai'd into a Zhenjiao world. He literally just got beaten to death by a fellow disciple at his kung fu studio. I cannot remember what the actual word is, so we're going with kung fu studio. And after that brief encounter with mortality, decides, no, I'm not doing this. Fuck this. So he winds up just looking for the least populated areas of cultivators possible, the least amount of chi, and decides that he would rather do a life of manual labor, have his own farm, buy some land, and not try to ascend to the heavens and surpass anything mortal, eating spirit beasts, killing his rivals, all that. So this book kind of functions as a parody to that genre. I personally, that's another one of my guilty pleasures, love the progression of like a good martial arts novel. Having the character learn secret techniques, take spirit pills, defeat spirit beasts, absolutely adore it. But I haven't seen it really twisted this way before. It is still an isekai because the character gets transported from Earth and takes his Earth knowledge and ideals and applies them into a world that has like chi and basically martial arts superpowers, which I still think is pretty sick. But the focus is never really completely on him. Yes, he's the main character, but As the title says, beware of chicken. In his sudden farming, he accidentally gains enlightenment and winds up giving sentience to all of his farm animals. The main farm animal, Big D, being his chicken at the time, winds up following the more traditional martial arts path. Chicken attack! But I feel like it balances a pretty good balance of slice of life, I'm building my thing, making relationships. It actually has romance and all that. Fun fact, it was originally designed to be a harem novel, and there's still a couple things from that you might catch, and that might turn some people off from this book. But having that balance out within farm animals becoming martial arts masters makes a pretty fun adventure. And it's not just pure slice of life. You do have these really epic moments where he goes off and just kind of shows everyone who's the boss, but it's almost like a One Punch Man type of setup. He's just farming and then just accidentally becomes unbelievably powerful. So you're not really focused on his martial arts growth, which would normally be the draw of these type of things, but instead him building his relationships, building up his farm, and dealing with the fallout of his previous life and some of his accidental shenanigans. And one of the reasons that I really enjoyed Beware of Chicken is kind of the humor resonates with me. There's also these moments of surprisingly emotional depths where I'm listening or reading the book and all of a sudden I just get hit with this gut punch of just oh, this was supposed to be popcorn fiction. Why is this affecting me? But mixed in with those emotional moments that I think that the author does very well with, there is a bunch of hijinks and just all around tomfoolery that I particularly enjoy. There's a lot of cultivator type of almost Your Will of Time fan Aes Sedai maneuvering, where you have these powerful beings that can live for hundreds if not thousands of years, and they're microanalyzing everything that you can do. So these guys are all playing 4D chess full of micro adjustments, trying to figure out what the other cultivator is thinking or what actually is happening, just constant political maneuvering. And the main character is basically playing checkers. And because he's so powerful, everyone constantly just misunderstands what he's doing or just reads way too far into it. And I realize that is a trope. And not all tropes are bad. This might annoy you a lot. But for me, I love a good whoops-a-daisy. I completely misunderstand what you were going for. Powerful brother, please don't kill me. Book 2. Oh great, I was reincarnated as a farmer. So if you have passed this book and seen the title and the cover and then was light novel, gross, you have been missing out. The same level of travesty of seeing the early Dungeon Crawler Carl cover art and seeing the name and title and everything and just deciding not to pick it up just for aesthetic reasons.
My name is GCBWRNW Princess Donut, the Queen and Chunk, and this, darlings, is my story.
It is surprisingly good. The guy who wrote it has such an interesting take on lit RPG system mechanics that I want to do a whole video just dedicated to how he handles the system and how that actually affects the people who are in it and use it. So, another isekai. This guy winds up being a semi-pro to pro gamer that winds up accidentally getting summoned to another world, and being the fantasy game lover that he is, gets immediately excited, can't wait to rack up XP, gain power, do all this crazy stuff, but there is a problem. In this world, you are locked to the system, so the system isn't just some kind of infinite growth machine. It's more serving a specific purpose, which the book does explore and has a pretty interesting take. One of the better ones I've actually seen for system type lit RPG mechanics. But that means that he got class locked as a farmer, and the only way to not be a farmer is to be level 100 in that class. You can reclass after that, but generally when you see people get to those type of levels, you're talking about Texas beef industry level type of industrialization, where you got to be really doing something crazy and already be kind of rich to start hitting that level of power in the farming class. Now, something I should mention about this book, and this is kind of a twist on some of the others that I will or have mentioned, is that the main character absolutely loathes farming. If you ever hated something or a job so much that the only way you could figure out how to get out of it was to start a series of ever increasingly elaborate murder barns, because that happened in this book. Now, I have read other works by Benjamin Carey, and I am a huge fan of his things, but a constant thing that he does that I think is very interesting within lit RPG, progression fantasy type things, is he creates these really elaborate systems just so he can cheat it, and that's what this character does in this book. The system's decided, hey, you're a farmer, you can't hold a sword, even if you hold it, it's going to just go straight out of your hands. I realized that was very sus. And in order to get around it, he finds certain exploits that are like, oh, hey, like, not only are we aware that exploits exist in the system, and that is a great way for people to level up or just become really wealthy, and that's kind of like the path he's trying to go towards, but he realizes that, hey, I get XP for defending my farm. If I create a trap, then that will also give me XP. Ergo, I'm going to make Kevin McAllister from Home Alone look like he had no idea what he's doing as I ramp up these insane murder machines and then try to actively bring all these terrible monsters onto my farm to further level up. What's the worst thing that could happen bringing all these monsters to my murder farm?
Not follow me up these stairs. Heads up.
So basically, he decides to rig up all of his barns as a Home Alone type death contraptions. Just imagine exactly that, Home Alone, except instead of using kind of zany antics, you're using murder devices. And he tries to lure more monsters to his farm and wind up creating a whole system, and the amount of experience he gets is completely insane. And I won't go into too much like plot details past that, but it is an insane, fun, and pretty comical book. One of the main draws too is how this writer does system mechanics. He's done this with a couple of the other books that I'm not talking about today, Benjamin Carey. But this has bothered me for a while. If you are in a lit RPG and you raise your strength, your constitution, your intelligence, there should be a direct effect on how you perceive the world, and that directly affecting you. Right. So in this book, they actually address that. If you get smarter, your memory and processing power gets better. If you get a higher constitution and endurance, that affects how you're perceiving the world. And it's kind of a theme in his books, but one thing that I really enjoy and that I think it's executed really well. Book 3, Battlemage Farmer. This one's kind of an interesting case. The writer has a YouTube channel which he puts out a ton of awesome content just related to writing lit RPGs, lit RPG systems, and he has a crazy output as it is, and his YouTube output as well as his writing is kind of crazy just how he finds all the time to do all that. But from what I'm seeing, just super cool guy. Check out his channel if you want to learn more about designing your own lit RPGs. But his Battlemage Farmer series is actually pretty good. He has a quote that he says all the time for writing good lit RPGs, and that is, no matter what the numbers are, number go up. And this book took a interesting take. It's an isekai, but it's not a brand new isekai. So the main character actually came and had like 10 years of just like fighting the demon army, leveling up, becoming like a master, wizard, proficiency, whatever you want to call it. And you don't start the story until he's basically like, I am done with all that, I want to retire. But there are a few mysteries that are happening, like, why are all these Doom ports coming from? Like, what's the deal with all these like missing wizards and this plot and intrigue? And his writing reminds me a lot of Brandon Sanderson. So if you ever wondered what Brandon Sanderson would write as a lit RPG, I think Battlemage Farmer actually fits pretty closely to that. The narrator is the same one for The Way of Kings, so maybe that is influencing me a little bit, but definitely similar styles and vibes. So interesting character, not starting at the very bottom, more as someone who is already just kind of like a masterly overpowered character, and that leads to a lot of fun things, because when you have someone who is basically like a walking nuke starter farm and nobody knows who he is, just the satisfaction that you get from some of these encounters really scratches that normal isekai itch, but because he is focusing on the farm and unraveling mysteries and not the actual just becoming overwhelmingly strong. It's an interesting take that I really enjoyed and highly recommend. And this one I wouldn't really call a slice of life cozy one, but I will say it's competent and you still get the farm building and it's pretty fun. But yeah, to wrap things up, while I still enjoy certain stories in this genre, I have read enough of it and I am at a questionably high enough maturity model that it's hard for me to just go deep down into like what a lot of these series are, which is just pure edgelord power fantasy type of thing. So whenever I can get a twist on this genre and to have my expectations for like a progression fantasy subverted, I'm always very happy to read those. And these books that I've mentioned and the authors that are involved with it so far have done such a great job on it that I really wanted to share these with you and recommend it. And while the occasional edgelord stuff is fun, just seeing a different type of progression, different type of resolutions where the end goal isn't necessarily just becoming overwhelmingly overpowered, but becoming powerful enough to kind of live life on your own terms without just becoming a complete sociopath that murders everyone in his sight just for questioning his power. You know what books I'm talking about. I think that the genre needs more of that, and with the new influx and my new love of more slice of life things, when you can combine those two where it's not just a complete comfy, cozy reading, but you somehow manage to combine the stakes of normal, like epic fantasy and those type of cool battlefield things with just a unconventional, untraditional progression, I think they're just really fun. And yeah, there's nothing edgelord about cheating the system by creating an elaborate series of murder barns. Absolutely nothing. Thanks for watching.